Julie does a statistical experiment. She throws a dice 600 times and she scores a 6 200 times. A, is the dice fair? Okay, so she gets 200 outcomes out of all those 600 throws. If I simplify by 100 on top and at the bottom, I would get 2 over 6. And if we consider that the possible outcomes for the dice would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, what would be the probability of each? If it were fair, it would be 1 over 6, 1 over 6, 1 over 6 for each one of them, right? So I can see that this is not going to be a fair dice because its probability of drawing a 6 is twice as large as that of a fair dice. So we can say no. And we can say that its probability of drawing a 6 is twice that of a fair dice. It's 2 times larger, right? So this is not a fair dice. Julie then throws a fair red dice once and a fair blue dice once. Complete the probability tree diagram to show the outcomes. Okay, in this case, I'm assuming that it's asking for me drawing a 6 out of the blue dice, and then I would have not a 6. And then I have here a 6 again on the blue dice, and not a 6. Okay, so remember I have 2 different events. I have the event of the red dice, and I have the event of the blue dice. Okay, so I also have to remember that the sum of the probabilities of all the possible outcomes has to be 1. So if I get a 6 with a probability 1 out of 6, what are all the other outcomes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of each with a probability 1 over 6. So if I put them all together, the probability of not getting a 6 would be 5 divided by 6. For the blue dice, same thing. If it's fair, the probability of getting a 6 would be 1 over 6, and the probability of not getting a 6 would be 5 over 6. The probability, and again, this is, okay, so say I threw a 6 on a red dice. What can I get out of the blue dice now? Well, I could get a 6 or not a 6. But say I didn't get a 6 on the red dice. Then what is the probability of getting a 6 on the blue dice or not a 6? Again, 1 out of 6 and 5 out of 6 for each. C. Julie throws a fair red dice once and a fair blue dice once. Calculate the probability that Julie gets a 6 on both the red and the blue dice. Okay, so in this case here, we can use this tree diagram, and I can see that the outcome that I want is the one that follows this path. And whenever I follow a path, the probabilities that I find, I'm going to multiply. So I want a 6 and a 6. So this is going to be 1 over 6 and 1 over 6. So the probability of getting a 6 and a 6 would be 1 out of 36. This is for C. So I'm going to write it over here as well, 1 out of 36.